Hi, I'm Craig Tomler, founder of Startup Stories. If you, like me, have started up a business or many businesses or wondered how people actually do it, go and become a founder of a startup or build a small business, then stay tuned to Startup Stories, as here we're interviewing founders and small business people to find out their tales of how they went from an idea in their head to a real business creating value in the world. So if you're interested in startups and founding a company, then keep an eye on startupstories.com.au.
I would say fundraising. So cash is getting available. It's getting easier and easier, but you get the legacy effect, right? So companies that started 1 year, 2 years ago have faced that issue. So now I think the problem is not so much more on the seed level, but more on the growth capital.
The hardest thing is getting funding. It's easy for you to start up with an idea and to come up with something because you have the passion for it. But once you want to take it to the next level, you need funds. It's the middle space where most people fall off because you have an idea, you've taken it to a certain startup level, concept level. Now execution, you need money. Nobody's funding that. That's the biggest challenge being faced by startups in Dubai and I think in the region.
Fundraising, and WOM does cover that beautifully today by doing a lot of sessions and introducing entrepreneurs to different investors. So it is a big challenge that we hope to cover today.
I think it's been said, over and over again, it is funding. So fundraising is the most difficult one, especially at the early stage. I think for the 10 million and then 20 million, or the 5, 10, 20 million, it's quite easy. You'll be able to find money. But it's at this stage when your business is risky, when no one is actually willing to invest on you. Although it's a good idea, people think, no, I don't want to be the first one. No, I'm not going to put my money into this until I make sure that someone has actually, made the bet and gone and tested this.
The legal infrastructure, this is something I'm really struggling with. How to build, between the investment vehicles, the operation in each country, how to open Saudi Arabia, that kind of stuff. I think it's probably something that is faced by a lot of entrepreneurs here.
Clearly, the legal entity setup and all that is a little more complicated, but I'm sure if you are a foreigner in the United States or somewhere else that wants to set up a business, it's likewise complicated. So I'm not a citizen of this country, so the fact that I can come here and establish a startup business, we can't expect it to be that simple as doing it in our home country.
Cost. It's a bit costly, which is especially in startups, because if you're not funded and even if you are funded, it's a bit costly relative to other places. And it's also the pool of talents that are based in Dubai is not huge enough, it's not diversified enough. So a lot of time you need to bring people outside of Dubai to Dubai, and with the whole logistics and visas and all of that. I think this is the main challenge.
I think there's huge challenges out here, and you've got the logistics, challenge and all the rest of it. So, a very small network here, a very close community of people that are willing to help. But I think, as with any market, it's tough being a startup and going through all those new challenges.
You're watching Startup Blog Insights with Taffy Williams. This month, we're talking about 3 factors that turn a great idea into a valuable business.
Welcome to another Nerd Stalker interview, everyone. Good morning. This is Greg Gloria, aka Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. Today, we'll be continuing our monthly segment, or actually continues our segment from probably February at this point, what's called Startup Blog Insights with Examiner writer and entrepreneur Taffy Williams, who is the co-founder and CEO of Colonial TDC, which offers a team of scientific and business professionals and experts to build and grow medical and technology companies. Basically, he's in the biotech space, guys. So Taffy also writes for the small business section of theexaminer.com and with his own personal advice based on his personal insights. And he has his own blog called Startup Blog. So anyway, good morning, Taffy, and welcome to Startup Blog's Insights for July 2015, live from North Carolina.
Hi, how are you doing this morning?
Good. It's great to catch up with you. We were talking offline with Taffy, and he's been a busy man, and he's been showing me a lot of his photography. And we'll go to this aside real quick, but if you haven't seen his photography, go to his website, colonialtdc.com, and he has a section there for his photos, and he has some pretty interesting photos from San Francisco. Every place he visits, he has interesting photos. But anyway, let's talk about ideas this month, and we'll use your article you wrote on Examiner.com called 3 Factors that turn a great idea into a valuable business.
Yeah.
And this is really important because I think we all generate a lot of valuable ideas, but you don't get off the dime sometimes on them, right?
Right.
And so in your article, you suggested building a long last, you said that a product idea is always great in the eyes of the inventor. Inventors sometimes elect to become entrepreneurs and create startups to exploit the inventions. It's easy to focus on creating a first-class product that looks and works great. After all, the concepts and vision were likely part of a path leading to the invention. However, the ability to create a viable business requires something more. So let's talk about what's that more part. So let's discuss that. So the first one is, that turn your ideas into value businesses is the payer, the guy holding the funds to give you to make your business viable, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like the investment funds, but it can be. It's the people that are interested in the product. So if you're creating a product and you want to price your product at a price point that they're not interested, they're not going to sell. If you want to price your product at a point where it's reasonable, but let's say it's an insurance company pays for the product and they're looking at margins, but the person has filed with medical insurance to get it, but the insurance company refuses to pay for that because they're watching costs, who's buying, who's actually paying for it. So you have to pay attention to who is paying for the product and whether they're willing to pay for the product. That's not a trivial issue. If you design a product that's and this happens quite often in the medical space, if you design a product that fits one type of physician, but that physician is not the one that controls the patients, he's going to lose business. That individual that's losing the business is going to fight against you in transition of use of that product because they're going to lose their customers. So you have to look at the dynamics and who is actually paying and what effect it might have on those individuals paying for the product, and whether there are changes within the marketplace that cause somebody to win or lose, and cause your adoption to not be what you're hoping for it to be. Great example, working with somebody right now who's got a software program. Software program fits within a medical space, and it's designed to help reduce improve healthcare and reduce readmission rates at the hospitals, right?
Wow.
Problem is, who's going to pay for the service? So the hospitals don't want to pick up any extra expenses. You really should fit within the counties, and the counties should host it because it's beneficial for all the people in the county, but the county doesn't want to pay for it, and they don't have the funds. We're trying to get it into a state. Well, the state doesn't want to pay for it. They're trying to figure out how to cut expenses. So we're trying to figure out how to get Medicare and Medicaid to put it in, but they got limited budget. If you can't figure out who's paying for your product and figure out if they're going to buy it, and if you can get it to them at a price point that you can make money, you don't have a product. All you got is an idea.
Oh, I see.
So keep in mind who's paying, who are you selling to, and are they really the ones that control it, and will they pay to get it, and is it going to affect anybody else such that that it might affect your dynamics in a way that you won't get adoption.
Yeah, that's a very big part in the in any product, what I notice is actually the pricing of something to gain what you just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of business models where, you know, they were very optimistic, but they went to some price point area that was just low adoption, and almost the barrier was high, is really what we're saying, right? But you know, you work in the biotech space, that must be even more difficult, right?
It's critical. I mean, literally, we were out in one company that I was with. We were out competing against, you know, in a sector which was dominated by dominated by radiologists, but we were pitching the cardiologists, and the cardiologists would be stealing from the radiologists, and the radiologists weren't turning their patients over. It's not going to happen. It is when you go out to raise capital, essential that you're able to describe to potential investors how you're going to capture the market. And they always ask who wins and who loses, and they want to know whether you're really going to get adoption.
Well,
that's not trivial.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, I think that's a great segue to your next section is, you know, you talk about the number of payers willing to sustain the business, as you just kind of mentioned, right? I mean, that's a hard thing to model in certain ideas, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, if you're creating a game and the parents have to pay for the game, and you create the game in such a way that the parents aren't going to pay for the game because they don't want their kids to have it, you're not going to get it. Kids may want it. You know, if you create it such that they're the ones paying, but the kids love it and the parents are not objecting to give it to them, you have a better chance of getting adoption, right?
Right. Well, yeah, and I don't know, you know, I mean, every market's going to be a little bit different, right? So it's kind of hard
Markets
to really.
Your market is how much you're selling the product for times the number of people you can actually capture.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if you, first of all, you have to worry about who's paying for it, so you can then estimate who it is you have as a potential pool to capture. Next thing is, what's your price points, what's your margins, and are you going to be able to sell enough of the product to make money? So I was talking to a physician the other day because we had invented a product, and the product is already, we've licensed it to somebody and they're selling it. He says, you know, they're selling it for $2,000 a piece. He says, I could have made this thing for $50. I said, you just made it no longer a product. Why would somebody pick up and sell something for 50, you know, for 200,000 cases a year for $50? And it says, that's not, you know, especially if the margins are, you know, small. And it says, you may be able to make it for that cheap, but nobody's going to be able to go through and pay to spend millions of dollars to develop it, and then they're not going to make any money on it. That's not, or they're going to lose money on it. It's not going to happen. There's no product there. So you have to develop it, and you have to now reach a price point that you're still able to justify. And this is more, you know, when you have, it's like you have payers that are insurance companies. This is also part of your insurance. Supposing the insurance companies look at the price and they say, we're not paying that. Right?
Okay.
But if they won't pay for it, and it's now a high price product, but you need to be that high price for you to make money, that cuts into your market.
I see.
Your market it requires adoption, and it requires the payers to pay, but it now means you have to have your price point so you can still make money.
Sure, absolutely.
So you've got to look at those two factors in particular to be able to estimate what your theoretical markets are. And you never quite make your theoretical markets, but let's suppose you hope to capture 25% or 10% of the market, right? You know, you're not going to get it if the payers aren't going to pay, and you also are getting into a point where the people that are going to use it aren't the ones who control the individual or patients or whatever it is, the decision-making process.
Right.
So,
well,
yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think what you're pointing out in your article really is you know, how do you model something that you want to attract investors to? I mean, you know, the viability of the model is also, you know, can you get it funded eventually if you need the funding? You know,
well, nobody's going to give you money to go out for a hobby. It's a hobby if you're not making money.
That's funny.
It's a lifestyle, you know, if you're not making money. If you're, you know, the investors don't invest because they think you're cute.
Well, maybe they have with you, but I don't know. But anyway, I don't know about that. But yeah, I wanted to ask you also, there's this third point that you talked about in the article, which is, you know, we talked a little bit about this a little bit before, is the need, right?
Absolutely.
So developing your product must-have list, and that's difficult too, I find.
It is.
in certain
We
things.
actually we were on the fundraising trail with a company I'm working with now. We sat in the room with a physician who invests in the sector that we're in, and he says, you know, they've gotten now to the point where they only invest in things that are have to have, not nice to have. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now it depends on the needs. So, you know, when you're selling cookies, when you're selling cookies,